All right. So listen, I've got a confession to make. I have an unhealthy addiction to gimbals. Yeah, image stabilization has become an odd obsession. I've tried Steadicams, and I've tried Zhiyun Crane version 2. Tried Pilot Fly gimbals. I've tried a Ronin. I've tried a lot of stuff, and I'm not proud of this obsession, but I want to get fluid shots as best I can with this best image stabilization, and I want it to be portable, and I want it to be steady, and I want it to have a long battery life, and I want to be able to use my 1DX Mark II on it, and I haven't found anything that's worked for me. That is, until this. Okay, so here's the equipment, the Canon 1DX Mark II, and this is my normal video setup. Keep in mind that with the Nebula Slant 5100, you cannot attach the microphone because it tilts the weight of the camera too far to the right. This is the extension pack. This is $20. It's from filmpower.com. It's not available on B&H or Adorama. It's a very simple extension to the bracket arm. Makes it really nice and easy to attach. This is the first time I've set it up. It comes with no instructions. Just comes in this bag with the 2 screws, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Now this is the L bracket that comes with the camera. It's really nice that you can take this L bracket on and off, and so it really makes transporting this gimbal really easy attached to a backpack. These screws just fit on here, and they just extend this vertical arm of this L bracket. Really easy and straightforward, even without instructions to attach this. And one of the unique parts about this Nebula 5100 slant is the way that this L bracket slides into position. So here's a clamp. These are very stable clamps, and so you can see I'm attaching it right here. Easily attaches. It extends it down so far that it actually blocks the gimbal from moving into position. Now the gimbal does come with this sliding plate. It's not a plate that I recognize, and so I don't think you can use any third-party plates. I think you have to use this plate. You can get an adapter from Nebula to allow it to attach to a standard tripod bracket. You slide the camera on. Once again, all of these fasteners are really easy to open and close. I'm able to adjust first when balancing this gimbal, which is actually really easy to balance. I'm going to balance it with the camera facing up, and I'm trying to get this L bracket arm in place and get it balanced properly so that it doesn't rotate. It's a combination of balancing this along with the forward and backwards balance of the camera. I've got the 1DX Mark II with the Sigma 24-14 lens attached. Now I'm balancing it left to right, and one of the problems is that you've got to really scoot this camera very far over to the left to get it to balance left to right, and even then it's still a little bit off. It still wants to drift to the right, which is an issue, but the motors are strong enough to overcome that. And now I'm balancing the last part, which is the swing arm of the camera. And there's instructions on how to balance gimbals. This gimbal is no different. I'm really surprised by how stable this is. Once again, you can get a 1DX Mark II to balance on this, but it is unstable without the additional bracket that you need to purchase from Nebula. It'd be nice if they would just throw it in with this gimbal, or at least allow us to buy it on B&H. But you can see the camera is very stable here, forward and back and side to side. One of the great parts about combining this gimbal with this camera and the autofocus is the beautiful footage you can get. Take a look. It's really beautiful how flat this gimbal goes when you take that L bracket off. Allows for great transportation. Okay, so to summarize, the Nebula 5100 is really the only gimbal that works with the Canon 1DX Mark II outside of the movie cams or the Ronins or any two-handed gimbal setup. It's more expensive, it's heavy, but as far as a one-handed gimbal system, that slant design, the higher capacity motors, and the setup with the extension rods that are once again going to cost you extra through the Nebula website, can't be bought right now through B&H, but are only about 20 bucks, makes this a really reasonable option for stabilization. A few caveats. First of all, don't expect this to work with every lens out there. I've used it with the 16-35 f4, I've used it with the Sigma 24 1.4, and I've used it with the 50mm 1.2 and the 35 1.4 from Canon, and they've all worked fine. Larger lenses like a Sigma 24-70 2.8 with image stabilization, or certainly the 70-200 Canon 2.8 are probably going to struggle on this gimbal and aren't really going to be useful in this capacity. The second thing is that you aren't going to be able to hook up a wired microphone. And the reason is because of the left to right balancing of the Canon 1DX Mark II. It blocks that microphone spot. You have to shift the camera too far over to the right and it becomes unbalanced, and the motors simply aren't strong enough to keep it balanced on that axis. So you're either going to have to use an external recorder and sync up the audio afterwards, or for example in this piece I'm simply using the 1DX Mark II internal microphones, which may be why you hear a little bit of the lens focusing. You may also hear some background noise as well. I also think that hooking up an external monitor directly to the camera is going to be a little more difficult because it's going to make that camera too top heavy. Not saying it can't be done with a smaller external monitor, but it's certainly something that you need to consider. So for balancing just a 1DX Mark II with some of these smaller offerings when it comes to lenses, definitely very doable with the Nebula 5100 Slant, provided you purchase the add-on kit that allows you to extend that base down. Works really great. I'm not paid by Nebula to say this. I wasn't given a free copy. I simply have a sickness for gimbals and image stabilization that's led me to discover this gimbal, and I hope this is my last gimbal that I ever have to purchase unless DJI comes out with one. Thanks for watching.